Hello, welcome to Local Anesthetic Podcast, your regular injection of mind-numbing local news. This is episode 364 now, which means we are one away from the golden number of 365. When you hit that number, it means there will be an episode of LAPodcast for you to listen to for every day of a year, if it's not a leap year. And I'm joined, as always, by Rob. And Rob, I should say that when we get to 365 episodes, I feel that you should get something, like some sort of award or recognition, or maybe even like a telegram from the Queen. And I'm aware, Rob, as we've been recording these episodes over the last few weeks, we kind of didn't really mention the Queen's Jubilee.
Yeah.
Is that because you're a Republican? Not in the American political sense, but in the sort of anti-monarchy sense.
Look, Alex, I'm very conscious we haven't made any reference to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Well done, Madge, on your 70 years on the throne. Congratulations.
Did you see the McDonald's adverts around London?
No.
They had no reference to their logo, nothing. It was just a red, a red billboard, and with in the middle, one's loving it.
Right, I'm quite good. Pretty sure she's never eaten a McDonald's in her entire life. On
that, Rob, can I completely derail this conversation?
Okay.
There was something I've been wanting to mention to you for a while. You and me sometimes like to talk about fast food, things like that. I had for the first time, and I've been wanting to have one again for many, many, many years, but I would probably say for the first time in 15 years, maybe more,
okay,
I decided not to go to McDonald's, but I went to Burger King. And it was as good as I remember, Rob, because to me, the Big Mac and the Whopper were always the big beasts of the fast food burgers.
Yeah.
And my Whopper, Rob, you don't get as many. Well, I'm not too sure. When I saw the portion of chips, I thought, wow, this is really small. But because they were actually proper potato, I felt like I got more chips in a way. But the Whopper was absolutely fantastic, Rob. I could not fault it. It was absolutely delicious. It was more expensive than a Big Mac meal, but my God, it was worth it. And so I wanted just to ask you, as a connoisseur of all these things, do you ever go to Burger King, Rob?
Yeah, I do. I don't frequent them very often. I mean, I think I've probably, if you ask me within the last 12 months, I think possibly once. I remember we stopped at very shady services on the A1M. I think Lyra was with us, but she was quite young at the time. But that's the last time I remember. It was. They do good burgers. I don't think anyone can deny that, Alex.
Yeah, I'm going to be picking it from now. It's going to be my place of choice. But anyway, yes, happy 70th birthday to the Queen. But this is very dated now already, Rob. I mean, we should have mentioned it.
Yeah. Really. We should have done. I mean, did you celebrate in any way? I imagine you didn't.
Well, I in no ways. Look,
no street parties.
I think I'm one of those people, Rob, who is able to, who on the one hand can say, like, do I think that the monarchy is kind of a thing that is needed nowadays? The only reason I see it doing any good is tourism and things like that.
Yeah.
But you cannot help but admire somebody who has made that personal sacrifice for this many years.
Yeah.
And in the way that she has, I can't really criticize. But as the institution as a whole and everything, I mean, my God. Let's not even go there.
For me, Alex, there were two highlights really that I think are worth mentioning. One was Boris getting
Craig David singing.
Did he sing? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Craig David.
I know that. Yeah. I think Rod Stewart was there. I think Elton did something as well. I didn't know Craig David did anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, one for me was Boris getting booed, going to the service at St Paul's, and then also at the concert. That was a highlight. And also, Alex, I live in Essex. It's a very patriotic county. Do
you live in Essex?
Well, no. We live in Hertfordshire, but literally, 2 minutes outside of Bishop Stortford, you are in Essex. Literally, the town borders are, the borders of the town are Essex. We were driving through a little village just outside Bishop Stortford, and there was a house that had really gone overboard, bunting, and they had fairy lights up and pictures of Her Majesty. They also had in their driveway a very alarming effigy of the Queen and Prince Philip having a tea party, attached with their faces affixed to what looked like scarecrows. Now, I mean, it's weird the fact they had that, but also you have to remember that one of those people is dead. It was strange.
Did they burn the effigies?
I don't think so. I don't think that was going to happen. I mean, that I'm sure around here that sentiment would go down very badly.
Rob, is there any news that you need to report on? Because I'm anxious and eager to get on with this podcast.
The one thing I've been meaning to mention, I think I mentioned it on the podcast before, but the man on the penny farthing, I have seen him on numerous occasions. He is repeatedly cycling past my house. I'm not sure if he's doing it to provoke me in some way, but also I realise he's now affixed a dash cam to his helmet, which to me it just seems like he's inviting some sort of car crash.
Can I just ask, number one, I wouldn't expect anywhere in the country for anybody to still be riding a penny farthing.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say?
Alex, there's no justification for doing it. He is clearly some sort of exhibitionist.
No, what I mean is, what does it tell me about the demographic of where you live? No, what is the demographic of where you live?
Alex, I've just told you everything you need to know. They're royalists who ride penny farthings. I mean, look, Jacob Rees-Mogg would feel.
So do you live in sort of Jacob Rees-Mogg? Oh, right, okay.
I mean, I know he's the MP for somewhere in Somerset, but yeah. Anyway.
Right, Rob. Look, talking of all things strange, I'm afraid I am diverting a bit from our regular diet of local news in some way, because I just want it at the moment, I mean, it's been a constant, but the world feels particularly crazy right now. I mean,
yeah.
If the world was to have a psychiatrist would have diagnosed us as having gone completely bonkers a long time ago. No? I mean, do you see what I mean? There should be
that's fair.
A sort of global mental health index of humanity as a whole. Where are we? So I just wanted to report on a few things from America and one thing here, just to highlight at the moment.
Right.
The insanity that prevails. So first of all, we're going to Vanity Fair. So you can tell, Rob, this is just a little more highbrow.
Yeah.
This is by Bess Levin. This is from June the 2nd. Republican congressman blames mass shootings on women having rights.
I mean, Alex,
I do like Vanity Fair's rights.
That's just bleak. It's not.
Yeah, I know, Rob, but we've got to talk about it. Look, I like Vanity Fair's opening paragraph here. Republicans have launched a competition, not literally, in which they duke it out to see who can come up with the most ridiculous thing to blame mass shootings on besides guns. So far, that's included too many doors, not enough God, pot, single mums, unarmed teachers, and schools being designed without tripwires and man traps. And just on that, I just want that. I had to.
Sorry.
Right, Rob and I need to be clear, right? These shootings, right? We're in no way laughing at those. In no way. They are horrific, aren't they, Rob? And honestly, they're traumatizing to hear about. And I cannot imagine how much they're traumatizing to the nation, as in the United States, and the families involved whose lives are basically ruined.
Yeah.
But absolutely ruined beyond repair. But this is ridiculous. So this is from the Washington Post, just to tell you about that tripwire comment. This was back on May the 25th, Rob. Max Boot is the journalist, quite well known actually, he is. And he turned, so basically I'm not going to read the story, I'm just going to skim down to the relevant bit, where he says a retired detective suggested on a Fox News show that the answer to mass shootings is, in quotes, to install man traps in all schools and a series of interlocking doors at the school entrance that are triggered by a tripwire, and, in his words, it traps a shooter like a rat. He did not, needless to say, offer any suggestions for how to pay for this elaborate idea or offer any evidence that it would prove effective. And Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene has said that we need to return to God as the answer.
I mean, first of all, if you're quoting Marjorie Taylor Greene in any context, you've already lost that argument, in my opinion. Alex, this week I was reading about the Overton Window, which is a fascinating political device. Do you know about the Overton Window?
It's something I've heard of and read about and researched before because I wanted to know what it was.
Yeah, exactly the same. The Overton Window is basically a lens by which what we deem as acceptable, especially in politics, can be viewed. So the idea is the Overton Window, depending on what's being said in the mainstream, it's basically a test bed for whereby you can propose policies that the general public would find acceptable. And this is this is me paraphrasing. This is not a definitive definition. But the idea is the Overton window moves over time. So it might move from the sort of a centralist view to maybe more of an extreme view. And with comments that schools should consider implementing tripwire and man traps, that means for me the Overton window has moved from generally acceptable to batshit crazy.
I absolutely wouldn't disagree with that. Do we know why it's called the Overton window? I assumed it's named after somebody, is it?
Yeah, I'd have to look that up again, but yeah, I'm assuming it is. But I would encourage people to have a look at it. It's actually quite interesting. It's and also, I mean, especially in this day and age where populist politics are very much sort of front and center. Yeah, it really helps help us understand where we are at this point in time.
So anyway, after this these various explanations that Republicans have come up with to explain this issue in America, Missouri Representative and Senate candidate Billy Long rolled up to an interview on Wednesday with a local radio station with a new excuse for why this is happening. He said, "When I was growing up in Springfield, you had 1 or 2 murders a year. Now we have 2, 3, 4 a week in Springfield, Missouri. So something has happened to our society, and I go back to abortion. When we decided it was okay to murder kids in their mother's wombs, life has no value to a lot of these folks." And of course, that doesn't really take account of the fact that we legalised abortion 5 years before the United States, yet we don't have the same problem with mass shootings.
I mean, Alex, it is so ill-informed. It's so ill-informed. I mean, the fact that he's even managed to formulate that argument, I mean, oh no! Do you know what? It's not worth getting worked up over. Okay,
well, Rob, prepare yourself because now we're just moving to Newsweek, and this is by Andrew Stanton. This is on the 21st of May, 2022. So again, a little while ago, but it's relevant to what I'm talking about here. In fact, I'm not even going to read the headline because it will ruin it. Candace Taylor, a Republican running in Georgia's gubernatorial race, said last week that Native Americans made in quotes, a huge sacrifice so Christians could, in quotes, worship Jesus freely in the United States.
Alex, can I ask you one question? Candice, is that spelled Kandiss?
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, I know her because she unfortunately she lost her race. Now, also, I would just say I've actually just last week Tonight John Oliver did a very, very good piece on her, which I would strongly encourage you to watch because she is, again, I don't want to use this phrase, but she is batshit. I mean, literally off the rails. I mean, unbelievably so. And if I would really,
hang on a minute, mate. Rob, let's wait to hear the full quote. I'm going to read it to you now because
okay.
I think there's a strong intellectual argument to be made here.
Right.
She says, the First Amendment right, which is our right to worship Jesus freely, which the First Amendment, well, yeah, it's okay. That's a slight twist in it. The First Amendment is, your right to practice your religion. It's not specifically Jesus, but never mind, right? That's why we have a country. That's why we have Georgia. That's why we had our founding fathers come here and destroy American Indians' homes and their land. They took it. Look at what they...
Sorry.
No way. Look at what they went through, the Native Americans, to sacrifice for us to have the freedom that we have today. Again, that was like reading something Trump might say. Native American. So on Twitter, people wrote back to her, Native Americans did not die so that white European settlers could worship Jesus. Pastor Tier Hardy tweeted, Native Americans died because of systemic murder at the hands of white settlers and later United States government. White Christian nationalism is alive and well in Candace Taylor's agenda. And others pointed out that the founding fathers supported freedom of religion rather than only the freedom to worship Christianity, as I said earlier, as they included the separation of church and state in the Constitution. But anyway,
there was I would urge people to seek out the John Oliver section on her. Also, there was a fantastic picture of her in front of a battle bus, and it just includes the word. There's 3 words on there, which obviously just really represent her main policies and beliefs. It just said Jesus, guns, babies.
Yes. How can you even put those right? Anyway, I'm not okay. Let's continue.
Alex, do not try and unpick it because there's no sense there.
let's continue on this journey. And by the way, I just want to say to any of our American listeners, because I know we have a lot, we're not picking. This isn't about two British people laughing and saying, hey, aren't Americans stupid? Neither of us believe that. This isn't about America. This is about a system. And by the way, it's happening over here as well.
Yeah.
But it really is, you're still as the world's leading superpower. It's worth hearing about what is going on there. And I will finish this segment, Rob, on a very small thing about the UK, but which it will be the cherry on the top of this shit icing. Right, this right before we get there, Rob, this is from. Well, I mean, it's covered. Yeah, Relevant magazine is it's a new publication for us, May the 14th, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to read this to you, Rob. Rob, this is everything this podcast was made for in many ways.
Right.
Okay. This will hopefully just, make your week worthwhile. Well, as soon as I read this, I thought, I can't wait to talk about this with Rob. Because this is the kind of thing that we used to talk about that led to this podcast even happening. Here's the headline. 6% of Americans think they could beat a grizzly bear in hand-to-hand combat.
Do you know, Alex? I have one response to that. Let them try.
A new study shines a light on the depths of delusion and wrongness in the heart of man. Can I just say, right now?
Yes. Of course, Alex. That is one of the greatest episode titles we've ever had.
It is. The depths of delusion and wrongness in the heart of man. That's like a masterpiece for a title. I mean, this could be what we're remembered for, Rob. This episode. Listen.
Alex, first of all, before you continue, is there not a case to be made that the gladiator should be brought back and the people who genuinely believe they can fight a bear should be given the opportunity to do just that?
Give it time, Rob. I would say in 5 years we'll be there, Yeah. ITV, prime time. Anyway, YouGov has released a new study on what members of the animal kingdom Americans think they could take on. So I'm going to go through now the percentages for you.
Amazing.
So here's the question. Which of the following animals, if any, do you think you could beat in a fight if you were unarmed? Question. And I'm going to give you the percentages. Now, the animals I'm going to go through, Rob, would be brilliant to take and put in the bank. Because do you remember when we used to do this thing where the podcast would get upgraded from animal to animal?
Yeah.
Like otter, vole, following the spirit of Apple's product releases with the Macs, where they would like tiger, snow leopard, all of that. These animals would be perfect for our local anaesthetic operating system updates. But anyway, right. So 72% of Americans say that they could beat, unarmed in a fight, a rat.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought the number would be higher.
Yeah, I must admit. I mean,
72% say they could beat a rat unarmed. But a rat would be very quick, Rob, and cunning. Anyway, we can't go through all of it. 69% say they could beat a house cat.
Right.
61% say they could beat a goose. 49% say a medium-sized dog. 30% of Americans say they could beat an eagle in an unarmed fight.
Okay.
23% of Americans say they could beat a large dog. I'm surprised that 17% of Americans think they could beat a chimpanzee. I think a chimpanzee would rip your face off, Rob.
Yeah, I think when it gets frenzied, Alex, I think it's going for the kill. Yeah, without a doubt.
15% of Americans say they could beat a king cobra.
Right.
14% of Americans, so that's more than 1 in 10, Rob, significantly more than 1 in 10, say they could beat a kangaroo in a fight unarmed.
I mean, obviously, there are videos on the internet of a man fighting a kangaroo. So I mean, that's maybe where that's come from.
12% say they could beat a wolf.
Okay.
9% say they could beat a crocodile, and then now we're down to the lunacy. So these are the lunatics out there. 8% say they could beat a gorilla unarmed.
What?
8% say they could beat an elephant unarmed. 8% say they could beat a lion unarmed, and 6% say they could beat, in unarmed combat, a grizzly bear. Good luck.
Alex, I have one comment to make. Are you short on work?
Well, it's funny you say that, Rob, because now I'm getting onto the second part of this story, which is where Americans were also asked, forget humans now.
Right.
If you put animals together in a Mortal Kombat style fighting tournament, who would win? This is what you cover doing with their time, right? Which animals would win in a Mortal Kombat style fight?
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Why are you doing this? So
I thought they were
I'm
quite
now,
a reputable surveying organisation.
They are. I think this is very revealing. Right, here we go. I am now, in the interest, Rob, of thoroughness, going to go through every animal here in a percentage, and I'll do it quickly. So, from bottom to top, I'm going to read them. So, the least likely to win in a Mortal Kombat style fighting tournament is goose, 14%. Oh, no, unarmed human, 17%.
Okay.
So to be fair, ostrich, 28%. Chimpanzee, I'm not going to go through percentages, I'm just going to go through them in order. Horse, coyote, walrus, orangutan, honey badger, kangaroo, eagle, hyena, boar, Komodo dragon, moose, wolf, king cobra, bull, buffalo, anaconda, cheetah, panther, leopard, jaguar, polar bear, gorilla, alligator, crocodile, lion, hippopotamus, tiger. Now we're for the top 3, Rob. Now we're at who would be most likely to win in a Mortal Kombat style fighting tournament. Grizzly bear comes in with bronze, 73%. Rhinoceros, silver, 74%. And gold is elephant with 74%. The elephant wins in the Mortal Kombat style fighting tournament. Thank you for tuning in. Come back next year.
Yeah, good night.
Rob, so look, I did promise I would finish. I didn't want to just hammer America. I mean, there's so much we could talk about the strange beliefs of our own political class, although it is of a different order of magnitude, I feel. But Rob, prepare yourself for this. This is from the London Economic website. Tom Head is the journalist. Again, this was from the 22nd of May, actually. I don't know how I missed this originally. I don't know if you heard of it. So there is this Conservative council candidate who is called John T. Campbell, who said...
Of course he is.
John T. Campbell, who said on Twitter, right? So basically, now, let me just give you the background. He's had 5 attempts to run for council. 2017, 2021, he tried to gain election to Lancashire Local Council in 2018 and 2019. He sought the nomination for Preston Council on all occasions. He fell short. He put on Twitter... Here's the thing with girls 22 or under. They smell massively different to a girl of 28. Girls aged 16 to, say, 23 have this buttery, creamy, slightly sweet smell that is unbelievably magnetic.
Oh, dear God. Sorry. I mean, do we just refer him to the relevant authorities now, or?
Yeah, I'll make the phone call. I'll do it. Okay, Rob, you got some stories for us.
Yes. So these are both these are pet related, Alex. Just to kick off.
There was a time, Rob, when this podcast was almost universally related to animal stories that featured a lot in local news, wasn't it?
Yes,
Rabbits,
that's
cats.
true.
Yeah,
that's true. Now, I don't want to throw forward too much, but I'm going to both these stories. I'm going to keep relatively short because we have a listener story, by the way, which I generally think is top draw. But
okay,
we'll come on to that.
Okay, let's save some time for that then. Brilliant.
Right. So my first story is from the Traitorous Guardian. It is from
Enemy of the People, Rob.
Enemy of the People. That's right. From also their coverage of the Jubilee was minimal. Alex, it's very upsetting. It's almost as if they want to promote the Republic. Anyway, look, it's from the 27th of May by Emily Duggan, and the headline is: Man sues Sainsbury's for banning his assistant's cat Chloe.
Man sues Sainsbury's for banning his assistant cat's Chloe.
His assistant cat Chloe. Basically, the assistant cat is called Chloe.
Right. It's quite an interesting headline, a bit of a tongue twister, and I'm intrigued.
So Chloe the assistant's cat could make legal history with her handler Ian Fenn after Sainsbury's refused to allow her into one of its shops. Fenn, who is autistic and has trained the black cat to be a support for him, is taking legal action against the supermarket.
So is this an emotional support animal of some degree?
This is an emotional support cat, yes, Alex. He says Chloe prevents sensory overload and could be treated like a guide dog or any other aid designed to help someone with a disability. On a visit to Sainsbury's in Clapham, South London in March, Fenn was told by security and staff he would need to leave the cat outside. After he complained, Sainsbury's told him it would only allow assistance dogs into its stores. Now, I don't know, Alex.
That is discriminatory, isn't it? I think that is discriminatory.
It is, I mean, yeah. Well, the thing I would add is, I mean, Yes, okay. If it prevents, if he is autistic and this generally helps him to contain his condition, then absolutely. But he has trained the cat himself. It's not like this cat has received any special training. It's not like it's been on a course.
No. I was reading about these emotional support animals the other day, saying that it has got completely out of hand, particularly like in the United States. Because like even I know, I'm just going to say it now, we've got friends of the family, and from what I understand it, their daughter, who just wants to take her dog with her wherever she goes, has just basically rolled up to the doctor and said, I have anxiety, I need this as an emotional support animal, and they just sign it off. I mean, it is...
Is it really that easy?
There's no... Yeah, so like... you could, if you lived in America, maybe you could take around a pet otter with you, or a ferret.
or maybe a gorilla to start those fights.
Yeah.
So Chris Fry, who specialised in disability discrimination action and is bringing a case for Fenn under the Equality Act, said there are plenty of cases about guide dogs being refused access to places or services, but there really hasn't been any judicial exploration of what constitutes an assistance animal, which again is a very good episode title.
It is, and what does constitute an assistance? Because like a lot of this is based on our own prejudices about what animals are acceptable. A cat, a dog, okay, but Sainsbury's would never let me in if I had an ostrich with me.
Exactly. And Alex, you need the ostrich.
I do. An ostrich could, and it could be highly trained. You just don't know. Kangaroo, like where is the line? Like, who decides this? We need a regulatory body, Rob. Set up. Yeah, and
I think it's also fair to say we are not making fun of this man. If this cat supports him, then,
not at all.
Or power to his elbow. The reason I particularly picked out this story is because of the next couple of sentences. So first of all,
okay.
So hospitals, shops and hotel chains have allowed Fenn, a product designer from South London, to bring Chloe along for assistance. The black cat is on a lead, which he takes to shops and wears a fluorescent yellow service catch jacket. She typically sits on Fenn's shoulders as he walks around.
Does she?
Chloe accompanies
like a parrot
hospital. Well, maybe, Alex, but I mean, she's got her own jacket. She sits on his shoulders. Fair play. It does beg the question: if she sits on his shoulders, why does she need the lead? But anyway, so Chloe accompanies me to the hospital, GP appointments, and blood donation appointments. We've been to zoos and aquariums where biosecurity needs to be considered. Alex, what does that sentence mean?
What does that mean?
We've been to zoos and aquariums where biosecurity needs to be considered.
Well, I don't know.
I don't understand what he means by that. Is he saying that she's going to affect the wildlife in aquariums by taking a cat in there?
I don't know, Rob.
Okay. I just wanted to question that. We've been to other supermarkets. What is so special about Sainsbury's? Who originally said, I was welcome in any store. Sainsbury's said it was working with the environmental health team to see if there's any way for Fenn and his cat to visit safely. The company argued that even though Chloe might be well-mannered, if it changes its policies, then other cats may cause havoc, and there is no way of checking an animal's level of training. Which is also a great line, Alex.
It is. I liked when he said, what's so special about Sainsbury's? And I would like Sainsbury's
absolutely.
to come back and say why they believe that they are different to Waitrose, what are the other, Tesco's, etc.
Yeah, Netto, which I don't think exists anymore. I'd like Sainsbury's to insist that any support animal has at least sort of like a BTEC in supporting animals, supporting humans, I should say. But they have to have some sort of qualification.
Yeah, I'm now calling, like Democrats in the United States who are calling for background checks on people before they buy guns. I want background checks on all cats being brought into supermarkets.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. I think it's only fair. If you need a biosecurity check to enter a zoo and aquarium, I think that's the least we should be asking for.
Absolutely.
So my next story is from it's our obligatory story from the Mirror. It is from the 26th of May by Nia Dalton, who is the specialist writer.
What does all that? What does that mean? All the other writers are like shit. Does that mean that that you're just shit? I can actually write. I'm the specialist.
I mean, Alex, what I'd say is if this is the story that she specialises in, then she needs to reconsider her career.
Right.
So are you ready for this?
Okay.
Okay. Man spends £12,480 to become a dog and practices rolling, sitting and paw.
No, I had this story to read out, Rob. I got mine from The Guardian. I watched the videos of this Japanese man in a dog costume.
Yes.
Which I could watch all day, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Very fetching.
Very, very realistic costume as well. It has to be said.
But really quite disturbing at the same time. But the listeners will want to hear about it. I am aware of it. I've got things to say on it. So.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
So some people spend millions of pounds trying to look like their favourite celebrity or Barbie doll, but one man from Japan dedicating his savings to becoming a dog. Dedicated. I'm going to read that last sentence. Dedicated his savings to becoming a dog.
Each to their own, Rob.
Yeah, of course. He spends approximately 2 million yen, which equates to £12,480, to look exactly like his favourite breed of canine. It was his lifelong dream to turn into a dog. Again, Alex. Dedicated his savings to becoming a dog, lifelong dream to turn into a dog, and a talented costume company made his unusual quest happen. So the man who identifies as Toko brought a realistic border collie costume from Zeppet, a Japanese agency known for creating sculptures and models for movies. It reportedly took Zeppet 40 days to make the costume, as Toko kept adding improvements to make it perfect. I made it a collie because it looks like when I put it on. Yeah, obviously. Toko told the Japanese news outlets Manavi. My favourite is quadrupedal animals, especially cute ones. Among them, I thought that a big animal close to me would be good, considering it would look like a realistic model, so I decided to make it a dog. I met such a condition and made a collie, my favourite breed of dog. When Toko was asked if he could move his limbs freely, he said he could, but with resistance. He also explained that if he moves too much, it wouldn't look like a realistic dog. A Zippet employee spoke about how the team found a way to create the skeleton sculpture of the dog and spent a lot of time studying it. They said, in addition, we collect photographs taken from various angles so that the beautiful coat of the collie could be reproduced and devised so the coat will flow naturally.
Rob, look, just stop a second. Can he eat while he's in the costume? Does that mouth work? And also, is there an orifice, a backdoor orifice linked up to his backdoor orifice so he can, shit out of it, like dogs like to do, you know?
There's no the story. Unfortunately, there's not a lot left of the story, so we have no idea whether he's able to eat. I mean, Alex, whether there's an orifice or
Rob,
not,
this man's a pervert.
Alex, you're disparaging a huge section of the furry community.
Tell me about, because it's not something I understand a lot about. Then, okay, go on. Tell me, what do you understand about it? We've talked about it before. What is this furry community?
Now, one thing I forgot to mention before, again, look, I'll be honest, I've been catching up back episodes of last week tonight. There was a senator, and I can't remember where from, who had picked up, oh God, he'd obviously picked up a conspiracy theory thinking it was fact, and spoke in his representative Congress in whatever state he's from about how schools are catering for furry children in the classrooms by providing water bowls and litter boxes in which to defecate. And said
that's
this
not
as
true,
if
is
it was
it?
a matter of fact.
That's not true.
No,
is
it's
it,
not
Rob?
true. But he genuinely said this. No, it was a conspiracy theory, an urban myth that he reported as fact, and there was a video of him stating it.
But there are subsections of the community, though, I'll say it's very small, who like to dress up as animals because, is it an identity thing? They believe that they or is it
I
more
think
of
there's... a lot of them state that it's not necessarily a fetish thing, but yeah, there's a big furry community across the world. They like to dress up as various different animals. There are furry conventions which you can attend. I don't know what the appeal is, but if that's your kink, so be it.
But you said it's not necessarily a fact. But you said it's not necessarily a kink. It could be. Could it be an identity thing where you feel like? I
think it is. I think there's they feel there's a sense. I mean, there's obviously a community. There's a sense of solidarity. Maybe. Maybe that they have some some sort of affiliation with their animal counterparts. I don't know, Alex.
It's funny, isn't it? Because in sort of more ancient mythology, some strands of mythology or even belief. The idea that you might have a animal spiritual associate, in the spiritual world, that you would be. What's the phrase I'm thinking of? That you're attached
absolutely.
to like an animal avatar.
Your
like
spirit
eagle.
animal.
Yeah, your spirit. Thank you, Rob. That's what I was trying to say. Native, some native American mythology is talk of the spirit animal. I think we've talked about this before. Your spirit animal, we speculated it would be a vole or something. What do you feel it would be? What would your spirit animal be? I swear we've talked about this before.
We have, yeah, and you've made equally disparaging comments. I'm not sure why I would be a small,
Nothing wrong with a vole, Rob. Rob, what would you be?
Well, what was top of the list of fighting animals? Elephant. That's where. No. What would I? I mean, I'd hate to say cat, but I think it might be. I can be quite standoffish. I like my own space. I like things on my terms. Yeah, I think it'd be a cat, Alex. I like to shit wherever I feel. And we're getting away from the man who has had a dog costume made. The story continues by saying he can be seen in the video rolling over belly rubs, pretending to sit and lifting his paw.
Now, have you watched the videos, Rob? They're quite hypnotic.
I haven't, if I'm completely honest, because I can imagine it, and that feels like enough.
No, you actually can't imagine it. There's a sort of there's a tender delicacy. There's a tenderness, Rob, about the videos, which you'll find surprising.
Can I ask, if you didn't know it was not a real dog, would you be convinced by it?
No, because you've got the problem of the arm. So the front, those legs which rest on the floor are very long. You'd be like, what is up with that dog's legs? Because he's obviously got his arms in there. But the rest of it is you wouldn't think it's a real dog, but it's close.
Do you think he's hanging around dog parks, possibly for action?
I don't know.
I'm just going to put that question out there. It's something to consider.
It's a good question, Rob, and it was worth asking. Okay, Rob, you promised us a corker of a story for our listener story of the week. Who's it from?
So this is from Claire, from New Orleans. And it's always nice to hear from her, so I hope she is well.
Absolutely. I hope we didn't offend you in any way, Claire, with our... I mean, I don't know. There might be some people who listen to this podcast, Rob, whose political leanings are more on the Republican far right sort of area, but I kind of doubt it. You would have thought you'd have switched off a while ago.
Yeah, and the conversation I've had with Claire, I think it's unlikely that's her particular political leanings.
Do you think we'd be considered woke, Rob, quote unquote?
Oh God, yes, Alex. I mean, the conversations we've had so far, even around the furries, I think that would probably imply that. Yeah, and we are very woke, Alex. We are very, what's the word? I think, liberal elites, snowflakes, all these kind of things, which I embrace.
Okay.
So this is from the Wales Online. It's from the 23rd of May by someone called Solent News, which I'm assuming isn't their name. If it is, then so be it.
They were made for this job, yeah.
Yeah, apparently so. I mean, oh God, Alex, the headline. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
So, Sergeant Major tasked with making sure his men didn't get too drunk, got so drunk at Oktoberfest, he sawed his lederhosen.
Great find, Claire. Is this a German story then? Is it or
no?
Oh, right, no.
He's a sergeant major in the British Army.
Right, and Claire in New Orleans found this. We should have found this. She's over in America finding stories about the British Army. How did we not spot this?
Well, she's got family in Wales, so I'm assuming that's why she featured. Anyway, look. So a regimental sergeant major is charged of making his. In charge of making sure his men didn't get too drunk at an army Oktoberfest bash, soiled his lederhosen, a court martial has heard.
Right, Rob, remind me, what is Oktoberfest?
So Oktoberfest is a legendary beer festival that takes place in Germany.
How do you pronounce it?
Oktoberfest.
As in October the month?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I think traditionally it started in Munich, I believe. I'm willing to be corrected on that. But yeah, I mean, Oktoberfest is now like a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, there are events all over the world for it. So RMS Michael Ransley was supposed to be responsible for setting and maintaining standards, but disgraced himself by getting into an embarrassing state. The 40-year-old decorated veteran, the most senior soldier at the German-themed event, had an accident in the toilet which left the long Bavarian socks he was wearing covered in his own waste.
Oh.
So Guests were left horrified by the smell and sight of RMS Ramsey, described in court as the epitome of what a commander should be, as he repeatedly ignored advice to clean himself up.
And he was in charge of making sure his platoon didn't get pissed.
Yeah, so he was the most senior ranking officer there, and basically had a responsibility to set an example to his own men to make sure they didn't get absolutely hammered. And unfortunately, so he did exactly the same result.
So he's the army equivalent of Boris Johnson, then, is he?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, let's face it. This man is a veteran. He's obviously got an impeccable career record, and this is one slight on his record, which unfortunately has led to a court-martial.
Wow. No.
So the soldier, 24 years, who as a result of the incident was demoted, was in such a messy state at the infantry battle school in Brecon, it was extremely offensive, the court-martial heard. RSM Ramsley, a father of three, had to be told to leave 3 times because he kept coming back after being escorted out, and was eventually found passed out with a strong smell of vomit and feces. Anyway.
Sorry.
I mean, also, can we let's get a good mental image of this. So, this is an Oktoberfest bash. He is already wearing a lederhosen with Bavarian socks and was in such a state that he had to be asked to leave on 3 separate occasions, and his socks were covered in his own shit.
and vomit.
And vomit. His lawyer admitted in court that it was a spectacular fall from grace for his previously respected soldier. That's not
much of a lawyer, is it?
No.
What are you doing? What are you saying?
Let's skip. I mean, we know. So basically, he was demoted from Warrant Class 1 to Warrant Class 2 by his commanding officer. So basically, he's appealing to try and overturn it. So
what's the grounds for his appeal? Do we know? I mean,
the grounds with his appeal were...
Well, maybe we'll get to that, yeah.
Yeah, I think we do. But so the Oktoberfest event was held for both civilians and military personnel on Saturday, October 16th last year in the Warrant Officers and Sergeants' Mess at the Battle School. RSM Ramsley, who wore brown lederhosen with long Bavarian-style socks, had a meeting with senior soldiers prior to the event over fears about excessive drinking. But after getting too drunk, he had an accident which left socks covered in excrement, and though he removed them, it was smeared on his legs. Yeah. Control measures to control such a risk was to have him there with senior management to deter that indulgence. There was a lot of alcohol available. Throughout the evening, he was given advice by others saying he had feces on his legs, that he needed to clean himself up and should not return. He was in the toilet and he stood up as someone else entered and soiled himself. He then fell into it. He was repeatedly told by other senior members that not only pointed out there was feces on his leg, but advised him to leave and sleep off the alcohol. He continued to return to the function despite being physically escorted into a private room. He was taken there 3 times. He failed to do this and returned again with feces on his leg. The smell and sight was causing distress to others. So, Alex, I mean, I'm just going to...
Is he given a reason as to like what happened? Like, I don't know, like somebody spiked my drink, or somebody gave me too much alcohol, or any mitigating circumstance,
No, he doesn't. This is the thing. He really doesn't. So I think it's just, unfortunately, it was just an error of judgment. I think there was a lot of responsibility placed on his shoulders. Maybe he overindulged, and this is what happened.
But Rob, look, I don't drink now, right? But in the days back where I'm thinking, like in my sort of late teens, early 20s, where I would, like anybody else in those years, you drink quite a lot, and there were times you could get hammered. And I remember there times of being completely gone, Rob. To the completely past any kind of line of consciousness, really. But I don't recall there ever being a stage ever where if I'd had excrement smeared down my legs, I wouldn't have realised that was a problem.
It's a very good point, Alex, and and not just the fact that
this is beyond catatonic, isn't it, Rob? This is beyond.
Yeah, and the fact that, Alex, if you weren't aware that you had that you'd soiled yourself, you'd slipped in it, it was on your socks and your legs, and people had told you that you smelt of vomit and feces, and that was enough for you to say, maybe it's time to call it a night. But Alex, I think the appeal was on the basis that obviously that this was a blot on his otherwise good record. Apparently, he wasn't on duty. He wasn't on an active deterrent role. And there should have been, and basically the case for the defence was saying that there should have been other senior members there, but unfortunately, the appeal has been thrown out.
Right. Well, we hope that in some way he can rehabilitate himself, because I think everybody deserves second chances. And on that note, Rob, we bring this episode of LA Podcast to a close, episode 364, of course, and we look forward with a mixture of eager anticipation yet trepidation. In fact, fuck the trepidation, I'm just excited about it. Episode 365, so that, I don't know, where is it to go from there, Rob? I mean, like I said, there'll be an episode for you to listen to for every day of the year, but I should say that isn't quite true, because there are more LA Podcast episodes out there. Think of them as a secret batch for Rob and I have got a Patreon, haven't we, Rob? It's a bit like a secret society where you sign up, you pay £2 a month, you get 2 episodes into your inbox. There are already well over 20 episodes already on there, so if you sign up there today, you already get 20 of these. They're called an extra jab episodes, LA Podcast, an extra jab, and so it's like a secret initiate group, isn't it, Rob? It's like our equivalent of the Freemasons.
Can I just to make absolutely clear, this is not a cult.
No.
Just want to put that out there.
Isn't it? Well, no. If you want to be a member of that cult and hear those LA Podcast and Extra Jab episodes, then just go to patreon.com/LA Podcast Extra. Also, if you go to our website, lapodcast.net, there's a link to it there, isn't there, Rob? I mean, there are links on all of our media places to the Patreon. And sign up. We'd really appreciate it, and we'd love to have you there. And in fact, Rob, we'll be recording this week, won't we? The Extra Jab episode, Rob, and I have got... sometimes I lament, Rob, at the quality of the stories we have on the Extra Jab episodes, and that some of the regular listeners. And I feel like, but we can only feature so many stories on both, but I can't wait to cover the stories I've got there, so hopefully you can join us over there. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with the regular LA, the free version of LA, which, as I say, will be episode 365. God bless.
And keep it local.
Local Anesthetic Podcast is now on Patreon, so sign up now to receive exclusive LA Podcast and Extra Jab bonus episodes to your inbox every month. These can't be found anywhere else, and if you want to hear them, go to patreon.com/LA Podcast Extra. More stories about stupid people doing stupid things. Teacher rushed to hospital after shoving USB cable in his penis.
No, fuck off, he didn't.
He inserted the cable to measure the length of his penis out of sexual curiosity.
What pleasure could you possibly derive from this? I mean, apart from trying it this evening.
More stupid people doing more stupid things. Parents ordered to pay 43-year-old son after getting rid of his pornography collection.
I just feel bad for the parents, because it seems like the one thing their son has managed to get right is the fact that he has a vintage pornography collection. That's the only thing going on in his life.
Well, inside the boxes were films such as Lesbians in Tight Shorts, University Co-ed 25, and 1001 Erotic Nights.
What can I see? What I'd like to know is, what was it? It was a University Co-ed 25. Did he have the whole University Co-ed series?
And of course, the strangest news stories you've ever heard.
Man left baffled after finding whole potato in his bag of kettle chips.
What?
Dr. Boyce, 38, was watching the deers rut in Leicestershire when he felt peckish and opened a bag of crisps.
What a strange... Was he having a wank? Was he? What a strange... So what a strange thing to include in the story. So the journalist went over there. They're like, tell us what happened. He goes, well, I was watching some deers have sex out of my window.